Good evening and welcome along to our weekly markets review brought to you by SG Futures. Today we're going to have a look at the E-Mini S&P as we always do. We'll have a brief look at the NASDAQ as well as the Russell in what was pretty much a nothing week. We didn't sell off, we didn't rally higher, so we pretty much balanced over the course of the week. We're going to have a look at some potential upside levels, some potential downside levels, and how we might approach things as we come into what is going to be quite a short week, given we've got Thanksgiving on Thursday. So without further ado, let us get into it. So we start, as we always do, on our daily candlestick chart on the E-Mini S&P futures. And what we've marked out up at the very top of the page here is the 5 daily candles we saw this week. So we opened up around at 36.11, traded lower, and closed up and around the 36.27. But over the course of the week, we pretty much just drifted off and tested some lows. This could be considered a bit of a cooling off or a little bit of a bull flag from what has been a pretty significant rally up from these levels down here. If we look at the rally that's come from, it's really just been since the beginning of November. We've come from a 32.47-ish and we've printed right up into the 36.49. So you're looking at almost 400 handles to the upside in the space of about 20 days, which is pretty significant. So this is something that we would expect to see as sort of a cooling off period following what's been a pretty big rally on news of a coronavirus vaccine. So we talked a little bit last week around this particular blue trend line, and for the most part in the previous week this trend line was respected. It's something we're going to keep an eye on as we come into this week. So we will, if we look at any sort of downside momentum, we'll look at how the trend line is respected. In pink, we have our 20-day moving average. In turquoise, we have our 50-day moving average. And then down below here, we have our 200-day moving average. So these are the sort of core levels to the downside that we would look at. We're trading nicely above the 20-day moving average. All of the MAs are in order. So that's a pretty bullish signal as we move forward into next week. Then of course down here we have our previous all-time high of 33.95, which we deem to be a significant level, but we think it's pretty unlikely that we get down there given the shortness of the week, and it would take a pretty significant bit of news to send the market down that way. So let's have a quick look at our weekly profile view. So what we have here in front of us is our weekly profile chart, and each of these distributions represents one full week worth of trade. So if we look at the week previous to last week, we know that on the news of the vaccine on the Monday, we opened up here and we pretty much spent the rest of the week pretty much coming off and filling out a good bit of volume and time down this particular region in here. If we look back at last week, again we opened pretty much on the near the highs, we traded up to the highs, and then over the rest of the week, Tuesday to Friday, we dribbled off and we closed down in and around the lows. As we come into this week, probably the closest level that we're interested in is the single print up here, which I think is about 33.84-ish, and we'll get to it on the main profile chart later on. That would be a single print that we would look at as a potential level that we could pivot off, but we generally expect coming into this week, if the market's going to function properly, that we would expect this particular area to get filled out a little bit more. That could happen perhaps over Monday and Tuesday, depending on how the futures open this evening. So that's our core area of focus, and we would expect to see value built out in here. And when we talk about value, that is time and volume. So we'd like to see time spent in here and volume transacting. To the downside, if we see any sort of downside momentum, we have this really strange profile in here from 2 weeks previous, which has a boatload of gaps and single prints and everything in it. So if we do see very significant downside, which is highly unlikely, then these single prints in here represent some potential downside targets or some potential areas that we would look for the market to fill out from a time and volume point of view. So when we jump across into our daily profile chart, what I've marked out here is each of the daily RTH sessions, or regular trading hour sessions, so this doesn't include Globex. And on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we had real overlapping value between these three profiles, which is significant. It's telling us that there is value to be had up here. We're spending time in these grey areas and we're transacting volume. Then, however, on Thursday and Friday, we've had a little bit of a sell-off down to the 35.41 level on Thursday. And then interestingly on Friday, we had a P-shaped profile and we printed and closed on a low, which is 1 or 2 ticks. We didn't take out the previous day's low, which we believe to be significant. We believe that this could be the potential low of this particular balance area. And any particular breaking of this low, this is now the weekly low, if we see any kind of breaking of this low, then we target some further levels down here. Again, we think it's unlikely. On Thursday and Friday, we've had overlapping value. And what's interesting is on Friday, we closed in and around the low, which was 35.43, but the fairest price to do business was up here, which is our VPOC at 35.68. So there is value built out up here, and we would expect to see these particular areas tested perhaps next week, again depending on how the futures and overnight session goes this evening. So when we jump across into our main profile chart that we trade off, and this is where we're going to start picking up some levels over the course of this week. Over on this side of the profile, this is where we have Friday's profile chart, and you'll notice end period traded 2 ticks above Thursday's A period. So it did not take out the lows. One small caveat that we would put in here, that whilst the end period didn't take out the low of A period, we could safely say that there's a good chance there just wasn't enough time to take out that low, in that end period is the final period of the day. That is what we call market generated information, or MGI, and we would look to carry that forward into our narrative next week. If we see this particular low of 35.42 taken out, then we target some levels to the downside in here. So we have a value area low in here, which is currently untested. So if we come back into last week, we can see that whilst we talked about on Friday, the market closed on the lows, and we have a virgin volume point of control up here at 35.69. Again, that is a level that a lot of traders will just sell blindly. So we would see, depending on where we open up this evening, when the futures open up, if we open above it, that might be something that a level that you would buy, and if we open below it, it could be one that you sell. They are potential short-term trades that many traders will take in a market such as this, given how technical the market is. So when we move up higher, and this is really where we get into, given that we're coming in with a sort of 60-40 in favor of the bullish narrative this week, we're looking at this particular set of single prints in here, which is from Wednesday's profile, this particular end period in here. So on Thursday, we traded into these single prints, but we didn't reach the top. So we would deem these particular levels to be significant. So we've mentioned already that 35.82 is a significant level in this market. So we would expect to see these single prints filled out if we can break above 35.82 and get back into these value areas up here. So acceptance or rejection within these single prints will tell us an awful lot about what the underlying narrative is between buyers and sellers. If we do break higher, we have some other areas that we're looking at. We have again another virgin point of control up here, which is at 36.12.25. So again, that could be a level that you would buy or sell in a very short-term time frame if you were day trading this market. And again, we have some single prints up here in M period, and these are from Monday the 16th. So we have a couple of singles in here. Again, acceptance or rejection within these singles will tell us an awful lot. But really, as we come into next week, and if we get really significant bullish momentum to the upside, we have these single prints in here. So these single prints, we deem them to be pretty significant, and acceptance or rejection in here will tell us a lot about a potential breakaway and move higher. And we feel this is unlikely to happen this week given the shortness of the week, but this could happen in the move into the holiday period. Typically we see bullish momentum in the month of December, so this could be an area that gets filled out as we move into the holiday period. As we move back down, there are a couple of other areas that we are interested in. We have from Wednesday's profile, we have a poor high up here. There's a high probability that this particular price gets repaired. So, and when we say repaired, that means the price just trades back through it and corrects that auction. So these are the levels we're looking at as we move into this week, and as we've mentioned in an overall macro view, we're probably leaning on the bull side of the fence coming into this week. So when we look into our NASDAQ chart from last week, there's just a whole lot of nothing really going on. We'll just mark off the candles in here. These are the 5 candles from last week, and not a huge amount happened. What we've noticed is that the trend line for the most part was respected, but we just kind of traded up and down through it, which doesn't really tell us an awful lot. We didn't rally higher, but we didn't sell off. And given that we're, for the most part, respecting the trend line, we could come into this week with a degree of confidence that we are going to break higher at some point. What's interesting is there is a couple of levels in here. Any sort of break above the sort of 12,050-ish level would see a targeting of this particular high up here. Taking out this particular high up here could send us to all-time highs. Again, I don't think it's going to happen this week given the shortness of the week. However, it's something we will look at as we move into December. Then finally, we'll have a quick look at the Russell 2000. So the Russell 2000 has performed brilliantly this week, and we just had a really nice period of balance in here. So we have pretty much we're starting to fill out this particular spike up here. So it's a really, really positive thing for the Russell. And the Russell is usually the outlier across the US majors, given that it's the mid-cap stocks. And they will be the ones who will be likely to benefit from some sort of return to normality or lifting of restrictions. So this particular narrative in here, and given that markets typically paint a picture of what the market sees 6 months ahead of time, that this is a particularly positive picture based on those who are participating in the market and where they're driving price to and from. So that's pretty much it from this week. This week is a relatively short week, so we're really only going to see trade from Monday to Wednesday, and we will have a good picture of where December is likely to take us by how the trade closes by Wednesday evening. So that just leaves me to say thank you so much for watching. A little bit of a shorter video this week. If you'd like to know more about market profile, visit our website sgfutures.com and have a look at some of our training material. But other than that, have a great week and safe trading.